Hey everyone, I'm Six-Path Weeb, and today we're exploring a world where fate takes an unexpected turn. Our fanfic topic: what if Danzo's legacy rested on Naruto's shoulders? A story of power, responsibility, and the shadows of the past. Disclaimer: this channel is for entertainment and discussion only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's jump right in. Human souls were odd little things. They were delicate, unable to protect themselves without the armor of flesh and bone. Yet, they were strong, for without the soul, the body was only a hollow shell. The soul was the true source of power. Mortals rarely understood this. They tried to grow stronger through might and skill, forgetting that the heart within them, brave, kind, and unwavering, was what truly mattered. Kyubi lay coiled in his cage, his massive head resting on his paws, observing with quiet curiosity. His current companion, Naruto, had a soul that shimmered with a light so pure it almost made the darkness around him blink. Kyubi's relationship with Naruto was complicated. He was a creature of chaos and hunger, and she was a whirlwind of kindness and determination. He despised the limits of his prison, but he couldn't help noticing the glow of her spirit. Humans often thought that gentleness and courage were weak traits. He knew better. A strong soul could stand firm even when the world seemed to crumble. It could forgive and endure, even when the path was unfair. Naruto's soul had already proven itself mighty. Many had tried to sway her, to tempt her into anger or despair, yet her heart had remained steadfast. Even Kyubi, who had tested her patience and courage countless times, was left in awe. She was resilient, radiant, and fearless in her goodness. Now, she faced a new challenge. Konoha, her home, had fallen under the strict rule of Danzo, a leader who believed that fear was stronger than friendship. Naruto had tried quietly to mend what was broken, to protect her village without drawing too much attention, but Danzo's gaze was sharp, and his traps many. Her courage had made her a beacon of hope, and her bravery had not gone unnoticed. Rebellion stirred quietly in the hearts of the villagers, and whispers spoke of Naruto as the one who could bring warmth and light back to their home. But first, she had to survive. "Brat, come to me," Kyubi called, his voice a low, rumbling purr. Naruto stepped forward, her blue eyes steady and bright. Her long blonde hair caught the dim light, tied neatly back yet soft enough to frame her determined face. She met his gaze without fear. "How long until they try to stop you?" Kyubi asked, his massive form curled around the chamber like a shadow made of fur and flame. "I don't know," Naruto replied softly, her voice calm and measured. "They haven't said. But I won't give up. Not ever." The demon hummed, almost impressed. He let a swirl of his chakra dance around her, warm and flickering like firelight, yet it caused her no harm. "Your journey has been amusing, Naruto. I won't let it end so quickly." Naruto tilted her head, curious but unfazed. "What do you mean?" Kyubi grinned, a flash of his sharp teeth showing in the dim light. "Fate has something in store for you yet. You're not just a little girl from Konoha. You're a spark meant to light the darkest corners. You cannot give up, and I will not let you." Her eyes shone with resolve. "Then I will face whatever comes, Kyubi. But promise me one thing: help me, not because I'm forced to, but because you want to see the world brighter." The great fox paused, considering her words. He was a creature of instinct, of raw power, yet her plea touched something he had not expected, something like respect. Perhaps even admiration. "Very well," he said at last, his voice softer, almost reluctantly gentle. "I will walk with you, Naruto. But remember, the path will be hard, and I will test you at every turn. That is my nature." Naruto nodded, her heart steady and unafraid. "Then let us begin." And with that, a girl and a mighty, ancient fox began their journey, side by side, toward a future that would be brighter than any darkness that had fallen before. "You'll understand when it is time for you to understand," the fox said, a twinkle of mischief in its golden eyes. "Too much has already happened. We must try again. I will grant you a special jutsu, one that no one in Konoha but you can perform. It will take us back in time, back to the day before you were born, the day before I appeared in Konoha." Naruto's eyes narrowed, her small fists clenching. "You must be joking. Why would I believe anything a fox spirit says? You expect me to just trust you?" she asked, her voice both firm and wary. The fox, Kyubi, grinned, its sharp teeth hidden by a mischievous smile. "Do you want Konoha to be safe? Do you want your friends to be unharmed? I do not ask this for myself. Someone is planning to harm the village, and you are the only one who can stop it. I swear on Inari-sama, I speak the truth. Naruko stared, her heart pounding. She had heard of Inari-sama, the deity of foxes and protection, but to hear such an oath sworn in its name was rare and binding. Her curiosity battled her hesitation. You swear? On Inari-sama? Truly? She asked. I swear it, Kyubi said solemnly, the gleam in its eyes softening. You must act carefully, but the path is clear. You alone can protect everyone. Naruko exhaled slowly, thinking. Very well. But how? I'm always watched, and this prison of sorts drains my energy. How could I possibly perform such a jutsu here? The fox tilted its head, a playful glimmer in its gaze. Who said you cannot perform it here? In your mind, Naruko, Kyubi whispered. The jutsu will flow from your imagination, your courage, and your heart. Meanwhile, Namikaze Minato sat at his desk, rubbing his temples with tired hands. Scrolls and papers were strewn everywhere, each filled with elaborate seals and instructions. One in particular caught his attention. Evil spirit binding seal, to contain a spirit, seal it into an animal. The spirit can only use the natural strength of the host. He shook his head. Too weak. This won't hold Kyubi. Not her. He reached for another scroll. Soul seal, dangers abound. Must be used with extreme care. The user must be stronger than the spirit, or disaster will follow. Minato groaned. Stronger than a centuries-old fox spirit? Impossible. Then, finally, his eyes fell on a last scroll, one he hadn't dared read before. Its title was simple but fearsome. Shiki Fuujin, the Reaper's Seal. His blue eyes widened with both hope and dread. The seal could work, but it would cost a life. And Kyubi was clever, strong, and wild. If she escaped, there would be no stopping the danger. Minato's hand paused over the scrolls as he felt a sudden realization wash over him. The only way to control Kyubi safely was through a Jinchuriki, a person who could host the spirit. His heart twisted. Could he place such a heavy responsibility on a child? Especially one so small, so precious. So loved? He thought of his wife, Namikaze Kushina, her smile warm even in memory, and the baby growing within her. No. I cannot put my child in danger, he whispered, his fingers trembling as he combed through the scrolls. But there must be a way to protect the village. Without losing anyone unnecessarily. And then, a subtle shimmer appeared on the wooden floor. A magical seal, intricate and glowing faintly, had formed, almost as if it were alive. Minato's eyes went wide. Hitotoki no Kemi Fuuin. Command of Time Seal. It was rare, powerful, and dangerous, but it offered hope. With it, Naruko could travel back, try again, and protect everyone she loved. And somewhere deep inside, Minato knew that Naruko, brave and determined, would rise to the challenge. She would wield the power of imagination, courage, and heart, not to harm, but to safeguard the future. The story of a small girl and a mighty fox was about to begin, and Konoha's fate rested gently on her tiny but unwavering shoulders. An immensely intricate seal shimmered faintly on the floor, swirling with threads of golden light. It reminded Minato of his Hiraishin technique but was far more complex. To travel through time using such a jutsu, a person needed an extraordinary amount of chakra, impeccable control, and mastery over every aspect of Fuuin jutsu, including hand seals. Even the tiniest mistake would make it impossible to complete, and the window to succeed was only 30 seconds. Whoever had created this seal was clearly a powerful and skilled shinobi. Minato's heart skipped a beat as he hoped silently that this visitor meant no harm. The office seemed suddenly heavier, as if holding its breath. The young Hokage straightened, ready to respond if necessary, his eyes tracing the flawless pattern of the seal. Not a single mark was out of place, it was a work of art. And then, almost like stepping out of a gentle breeze, a figure appeared. A tall, lean young woman wearing Onbu captain robes stood before him. Minato narrowed his eyes, cautious but curious. The symbol on her headband glinted in the sunlight streaming through the window. Konoha. She was a shinobi from the village. Who are you? He asked, keeping his voice calm. Her blue eyes, so startlingly bright, so familiar, met his. Minato blinked, surprised by the reflection of his own color in her gaze. She moved gracefully, almost wincing as her body shook from the strain of the ritual. Her long, silky blonde hair clung to her face, and she brushed it aside, revealing tiny scratches and a faint trickle of blood on her wrists. The seal had taken a toll. Please, allow me to bandage these before I explain, she murmured, her voice soft yet steady. Minato nodded and handed her a roll of bandages he always kept close. Naruko's hands were nimble and precise, wrapping her wrists quickly while wincing faintly. Once done, she met his gaze fully. First, I must assure you, Yondaime-sama, she began, her tone gentle but firm, I am a loyal shinobi of Konoha. I mean no harm to you or the village. If necessary, I will submit to any investigation you deem fit. Minato studied her carefully before nodding, acknowledging her sincerity. She let out a soft breath. You are known for your expertise in seals. The one I used to arrive here. You recognize it? Yes, Minato replied. It speaks to your skill and dedication. But why are you here? Who are you? Naruko tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and hesitated, as if weighing her words carefully. Why I am here is a long story. But as for who I am. Yondaime-sama, are you ready? Minato's gaze sharpened. Who are you? For the first 16 years of my life, I went by the name Uzumaki Naruto, she said quietly, a wistful frown appearing on her lips. But my rightful name is Namikaze Naruko. Minato froze, absorbing the weight of her words. Her eyes, so like Kushina's, the same stubborn spark, the same warmth, the same determination, it was all there. Her slender, graceful build mirrored both him and his late wife. You are my daughter, he breathed, almost in disbelief. Naruko smiled faintly, a touch bittersweet. Yes, Yondaime-sama. I am your daughter. He blinked, stunned, before collecting himself. Do you have proof? In my blood, Naruko said calmly. You may test it against yours or my mother's. At the mention of Kushina, Minato stiffened. Yes, Naruko added softly, I know how you rescued her from danger. Following the trail she left behind. I know because I was part of that story in my own way. Minato leaned back, his heart racing with a mix of wonder and pride. Naruko smiled gently, ending the moment of sentimentality. Whether you believe me or not doesn't change why I'm here. Minato's eyes softened but remained alert. Give me your profile. She raised her right hand, focusing her chakra to reveal a delicate seal on her palm. A storage seal? Minato asked. How does it work? I modified it to hold important items on me at all times, Naruko explained simply. Weapons, documents. Anything necessary to protect the village or myself. She retrieved a scroll and placed it carefully on the Hokage's desk. Minato unfurled it, scanning her record. Graduated after 2 failed attempts. Jumped to Anbu directly. Became a captain in less than a year? Minato raised a brow. Naruko shrugged lightly. Ranks didn't matter. What mattered was keeping the village safe. Minato studied her further. A-rank missions, S-rank missions. You've accomplished more than most shinobi ever dream of. And yet, here you stand, calm and humble. I only do what's necessary, Naruko said softly. To protect those I care about. That's enough reward for me. Minato leaned back in his chair, heart swelling with admiration. The young woman before him, his daughter, brave, clever, and loyal, was a testament to both her parents' legacy. He realized that Konoha's future was brighter than he had ever imagined. You defeated an SS-class shinobi? As a Genin? Minato asked in disbelief. I want full details, the report only gives me the bare minimum. He gestured toward the scrolls on his desk, his voice stern yet curious. Tell me, have you ever done a normal, simple C-class mission? Your record is unusual. Officially, you should be a jounin by now. Naruko shrugged, a playful glint in her eyes. I have. But my circumstances were a bit different. Someday, I'll tell you the whole story if you want. Minato raised an eyebrow. Do I even want to hear more? If just this much worries you, then maybe not, Naruko said lightly. After that mission, I joined the Anbu squad and became the captain 7 months later. I'm 18 now and specialize in ninjutsu and fuuin jutsu. She glanced at a calendar on the Hokage's desk. Tomorrow. Your child will be born. Minato paled, running a hand through his hair. Tomorrow. The QB, he whispered. Naruko's eyes narrowed, her gaze sharpening as it swept across the scrolls. A calm determination settled over her face. Preparing to seal away the QB, I see, she said softly. Then, with a small, confident smile, she added, that's one of the reasons I'm here. She gestured to the scrolls. I'll help you seal the demon safely within your child. No. Minato's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with worry. Why? Her? Naruko simply shrugged. We are a family of ninja, she said gently. That's what you once said when you sealed away the QB. I can't stop this from happening. But I can help protect you. She removed her cloak and jacket, focusing her chakra to summon the glowing outline of a seal. Her icy blue eyes met Minato's with unwavering resolve. Minato inhaled sharply. This Shiki Fuujin, used with Haki Fuuin and Shisho Fuuin, Naruto explained quietly. It's proof of your skill, and a testament to mine. It's a double-edged sword, dangerous, yes, but also life-saving. That's why I'm alive today. Forgive me, Minato whispered desperately. Don't, Naruto said firmly. You did what you had to do. I would have done the same if I were in your position. We'll have time to talk about regrets later. Right now, the Kyuubi is coming for a reason. Minato nodded, steeling himself. Something more is at play. Naruto's gaze was steady. Konoha needs to be strong. You had the courage to sacrifice yourself once, Yondaime-sama. Now, you must have the courage to live for it. Her words hung in the air, gentle but firm. She continued, the Kyuubi believes that I have a bigger role to play. A destiny, perhaps. I don't fully understand it yet, but I swear to protect Konoha, no matter what. A prophecy? Minato asked skeptically. Don't ask me, she said with a small laugh. All I know is we'll use the same seal you did. But this time, I'll perform it instead of you. Minato's eyes narrowed. You forget your place, Captain. I am the Hokage. Why should I agree? Naruto's gaze was steady, icy yet warm with care. Because there's a chance I'll survive, she explained. The jutsu will be difficult, yes, but I have 2 souls within me. You might not make it through, but I just might. Her determination softened something in Minato. Still, he said, I don't want you to do this. Even if I die, many others will look after my child. You don't need to risk yourself. You don't understand, Naruto said softly. Konoha needs you. And I need you too. Not a replacement, not anyone else. You. Minato's blue eyes softened, the weight of his duty clashing with the love in his heart. Please, Naruto continued, her voice quiet but firm, let me do this. If I perform the seal, Kyuubi can be contained before reaching Konoha. No one will even know. There's a storm coming, father, and we must be ready. A tense silence followed. Then Minato laughed, sharp and incredulous, shaking his head. You call me father. And yet you offer to risk your life in place of mine? Naruto met his gaze steadily. Yes. But it's not just for me. It's for Konoha. For your child. For all of us. Minato exhaled deeply, the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders. He looked at Naruto, his supposed child, yet more capable and brave than he had ever imagined. Finally, he nodded. Very well, he said, reluctant but trusting. Naruto's smile was radiant, warm, and full of hope. For the first time, Minato allowed himself to believe that, with her courage, everything might just work out. Are you ready? A low voice asked, and Minato sighed. I don't know, sensei, he whispered, his voice fragile. Everything already felt like it was slipping out of his control. Looking down at the small, silent bundle in his arms, he smiled through the pain. Kushina, he murmured, brokenly, they say she might not make it. Jiraiya's eyes softened. They're trying everything they can, he said gently. Obstetrical complications. She's bleeding too much. Yondaime's gaze fell on the tiny baby in Minato's arms. He smiled, brushing his fingers over her soft, pink cheek. She's beautiful, he whispered. And I know she would grow up to be an extraordinary girl. Jiraiya scoffed lightly, turning to glance at the teenager studying a scroll with intense focus. Beautiful is right. As far as looks go, she could very well be your daughter. She even resembles Kushina in ways that are hard to ignore. If this were a ruse, it's a clever one. Minato shook his head. We've done a full analysis of her blood. Inoiki even did a mind walk to verify. Both her DNA and the results confirm she's my daughter. He looked at Jiraiya solemnly. We ran the tests 3 times just to be sure. Jiraiya grunted. It's good to have proof. But there's something eerie about her chakra, it feels just like Kushina's. And that long hair. She got that from her mother, didn't she? Not exactly from your usual messy style, Minato. Minato smiled at the teenage Naruto in his thoughts. Her hair is like mine was when I was young. It's an inheritance from me. And also from you, sensei, indirectly. Jiraiya blinked in surprise. Me? Yes, Minato chuckled. She grew it out in honor of your memory, and because she's learned Hari Jizo from the notes you left behind. Long hair isn't required for that, Jiraiya said, raising an eyebrow, though he seemed pleased. Has she seen Kushina yet? She has, Minato said softly, and she's more worried about her mother than she lets on. She came here to protect both her family and the village. The thought that she might lose her mother before truly knowing her is painful for her. Yondaime's eyes twinkled. A child's bond with her mother is strong, even if she doesn't fully understand it yet. Jiraiya frowned, watching Naruko's pale features and the grip she had on the scroll. She looks nervous. Can she perform the seals? You say she's trained in Hitotoki no Kemi Fuin, but... Minato's sharp blue eyes followed her as she scribbled notes, murmuring to herself. I worry about that too, he admitted. She's young, sensei. Sealing is a demanding art. I hope she can handle it without mistake. A calm, wise voice interrupted. Both Jiraiya and Minato turned to see Sandaime. This is your daughter we're speaking of, Minato, Sandaime said, smiling kindly at the baby Naruko in Minato's arms. When you first joined the Konoha Iwo War, you were younger than she is now, and many believe we won because of your courage. Never underestimate anyone who has Namikaze and Uzumaki blood flowing through her veins. Minato watched Naruko closely. She moved with a sense of urgency, clearly focusing on the task at hand. Yet her eyes betrayed the worry and anguish she felt for her mother. There was no mistaking the bond she shared with Kushina, or the innate kindness in her heart. It's difficult, Sandaime said softly. To know you're her father but not have been there to protect her. Minato nodded, just as a young jonin rushed in. Yondaime-sama, he gasped, it's the Kyuubi. Naruko's eyes widened. All right. Prepare for evacuation, Minato instructed sharply. Civilian families to the bunkers. Senior jonin and chunin focus on defending the village. The jonin nodded and left. Minato gestured to the onbu shadowing him. Primary offense units 1 to 4, accompany Sandaime-sama. Emergency protection units 8 and 9, assist Jiraiya-sama. Naruko, taking charge, spoke up for the first time. Primary defense detail with me. They have the strongest shields. Minato handed her a Hiraishin-tagged kunai. For your protection, he said. Then, with a tender smile, he handed the baby to her. Take care of her, Naruko. I trust you. Naruko adjusted the baby safely in a sling made from her coat. She studied the final seal design on her scroll with precision, her heart pounding but her hands steady. She had inherited her mother's skills and her father's courage. As they moved through the village, the gates were already crumbling under the Kyuubi's power. Naruko didn't panic. She zipped forward, giving clear commands to the onbu. 4 with me, 2 with Yondaime. Go now. The onbu obeyed instinctively. Naruko clutched the baby tightly, weaving between villagers and soldiers with astonishing speed. Kyuubi's eyes, sharp and alert, immediately sensed her chakra. But Naruko's confidence didn't falter. Careful. Yondaime called, appearing behind her. Using his Hiraishin kunai, he swallowed Kyuubi's Baijudama in a flash of space-time magic. Summon jutsu. Minato called as Naruko moved toward the shrine, her protective shroud enveloping her. She had to get ready for the sealing. When she arrived, she saw her mother struggling but still defiant, her chakra forming glowing chains to restrain the Kyuubi. Kushina-san. Naruko called, rushing forward. You need to return to the hospital. It's too dangerous here. I know your plan, Kushina said, weak but determined, and I won't sit back while my daughter protects everyone. I will do my part too. Naruko swallowed, her hands forming seals with a steady rhythm: snake, boar, ram, rabbit, dog, rat, bird, horse, snake. She could feel her mother's strength bolstering her own. Together, they would protect their home. With a deep breath, Naruko began the ritual, her focus unshakable. Her mother's gaze met hers, a silent promise passing between them. No matter what, they would face it together. And in that moment, Naruko truly felt the strength of her family, the courage of her bloodline, and the gentle warmth of a hero's heart. A small wave of chakra shimmered around Naruko, and the Shinigami's large, shadowy form appeared behind her. A soft, glowing orb of light floated between the Shinigami and Naruko, shifting gently but refusing to take any definite shape. Kushina let out a startled cry but couldn't summon enough energy to move. Minato rushed to her side, helping her sit up carefully while keeping a watchful eye on their infant child and Naruko. With the Shiki Fuijin, I'll be able to seal away half of Kyuubi's power forever, Naruko said calmly, her eyes steady. The other half, I'll keep safe within the child using Haki Fuin. You don't understand. Kushina's voice trembled. The Shiki Fuijin won't work if you're already the host. The enormous Kyuubi turned its glowing gaze toward Naruto, letting out a low, rumbling growl. Mother, Naruto said softly, as long as I don't have all of Kyuubi inside me, I can perform Shiki Fuujin. Normally a Jinchuriki can't, but I'm an exception. A part of Kyuubi inside me is enough to make the jutsu work and keep everyone safe. Minato's eyes narrowed as he studied the shifting orb of light the Shinigami had kept contained. It didn't look like a human or any familiar shape, it shimmered like liquid sunlight. Maybe Naruto's plan was working. Kushina, she whispered weakly, please, we can't hold her back. There's no other way. But she's our daughter, Kushina said, tears in her eyes. There has to be another way. We're doing this for her, Minato said firmly, brushing a strand of hair from Kushina's face. Something important is coming, and she is in the middle of it. This is the only way to keep her safe. Shiki Fuujin. Both parents turned swiftly as Naruto knelt, letting the Shinigami's gentle hand pass through her and reach toward Kyuubi. A swirl of golden energy lifted from Kyuubi, shimmering and taking shape in the Shinigami's glowing orb. The power that had seemed unstoppable now glimmered safely in a form they could contain. Naruto took a shaky breath. Quick! Place the baby on the ceremonial pedestal. I don't know how much longer I can hold this. Minato carefully lifted the infant, setting the child onto the pedestal with a soft hum of reassurance. Suddenly, Kyuubi's energy flickered wildly, but Naruto, Minato, and Kushina acted as one, shielding the baby with their combined strength. Though the energy brushed past them, the child remained safe and unharmed. Shh! Be brave, little one, Naruto whispered gently. Kneeling, she gathered the remaining spark of her chakra and began drawing the sealing marks onto the child, her hands steady and careful. It's okay, Naru-chan. You're safe. Once the marks were complete, she formed the hand seals and whispered, Haki no Fuuin Shiki. Light shimmered along the runes, and a warm glow wrapped around the child. Taking another deep breath, she whispered again, Shisho Fuuin, letting her energy flow into the protective seals. Then a burst of golden light filled the room, and all Naruto could see was the baby's smiling face before she felt herself growing light and sleepy. Her parents' hands held her gently as she sank into a soft, peaceful rest. She chuckled weakly, her eyelids closing. It was done. Minato was familiar with the idea of loss. He had always accepted it as part of life, as any devoted ninja would. But knowing that did not soften the sting of his wife's passing. Death had arrived unexpectedly, taking Kushina in the delicate days following childbirth, leaving behind their infant daughter, Naruto. Minato felt hollow. He moved quietly through the motions of life, watching over his daughter and trying to shield her from the heaviness of the world. Friends and neighbors came to offer sympathy, some to demand answers, and a few reminded him gently that Konoha still needed its Hokage. Yet nothing could fill the empty space left by Kushina's warmth, laughter, and love. Thankfully, Sandaime had managed the administrative duties of the Hokage Tower, leaving Minato space to grieve, to close the Namikaze family shrine, and to arrange the wake and burial. Every condolence felt like a distant echo, incapable of reaching him through the fog of sorrow. He sat by the crib, staring at his daughter's fragile, gurgling face. Her tiny fingers reached for him, and he felt a flicker of life stir within him. Her wind chakra, gentle yet strong, reminded him of Kushina and the love they had shared. I wonder, he murmured softly, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her tiny forehead, what should we call her? Something close to her mother's strength, yet unique. Naruko. That feels just right. He smiled faintly as the infant gurgled in response, as though she approved of the name. The name felt like a promise, a new beginning, carrying both the Namikaze legacy and a spark of hope for the future. Tsunade and Jiraiya came to check on the child. Her chakra is stable, Tsunade reported. She carries a trace of Kushina's strength, but mostly your wind chakra, Minato. She's resilient. This little girl has the vitality of the Uzumaki. Minato nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. She has Kushina's spirit, he said softly, and she will grow to be strong in her own way. As Naruko cooed and reached for her father, Minato felt the first warmth in his heart since that fateful day. The world had been bleak, yes, but the bright blue of her eyes and the tiny curl of her smile reminded him that life still held wonders worth protecting. Later, in the park, Uchiha Mikoto had brought her sons, Itachi and Sasuke, for some fresh air. Minato's brother, Namikaze Naruaki, had come to keep an eye on the little ones. Naruaki knelt by the stroller where Naruko lay, her tiny hands waving in delight. Hello, little one, he said gently, his calm eyes meeting hers. Naruko gurgled happily, as if she already recognized a gentle presence. Naruaki glanced at Mikoto's sons and nodded respectfully. "Hello, Itachi-kun." "And Suke-chan," he greeted them. Mikoto observed quietly, noting the careful attentiveness in Naruaki's demeanor. There was wisdom in his gaze, a way of understanding children that went beyond words. Even Itachi seemed slightly intrigued, standing straighter and returning the greeting with a polite bow. Naruaki's smile never wavered as he looked at Naruko again. "Behave for now, all right?" he murmured softly, brushing her cheek with the gentlest touch. She responded with a tiny squeal of delight, reaching up for his hand with curiosity. As he stood and prepared to leave, Mikoto watched closely, sensing that Naruaki's presence was unusual, something quietly commanding yet tender. She could tell that the children felt it too, though they might not yet understand why. "Take care of her," she called softly. "She is fragile, but full of life." Naruaki inclined his head, his expression serious but kind. "I will. She is Namikaze, and she will grow strong, I promise." With that, he walked away, leaving behind a small trail of confidence and calm. Mikoto watched him go, realizing that Naruko had a guardian who understood more than just the ordinary needs of a child, someone who could see the threads of the future, the echoes of the past, and the quiet courage that would one day define her. Naruko blinked up at the sky, unaware yet of the extraordinary life that awaited her, but wrapped in the care of those who loved her, she had everything she needed to flourish. Naruko moved quietly in the shadows, her eyes bright and curious as she observed everyone in the room. Most of her attention was on Danzo, whose stern expression made her twitch her lips in a careful frown. She knew that if she were noticed, the tension in the room would grow instantly. At the head of the table sat the former Hokage, Sandaime. Naruko found it curious that he was sitting with Danzo, Koharu, and Homura, even though he clearly didn't agree with all their ideas. She supposed that he must have trusted them, or at least relied on them more than she could understand. Across the room, Uchiha Fugaku and Hyuga Hyashi sat together, their noble presence making the room feel even more serious. Naruko didn't fully know what to think of them. They seemed powerful, but the way they sometimes tried to control everything made her uncomfortable. She had seen people use their power in ways that weren't always kind, and she didn't like that feeling at all. She glanced around at the other council members. Some faces were familiar, others vague, and a few she didn't recognize at all. At the head of the table, her father, Minato, sat frowning thoughtfully, waiting for everyone to settle. Finally, Homura spoke. "Yondaime-sama," he began politely, "it has been a week since your unexpected order to evacuate the villagers and place all ninja on standby, followed by the sudden appearance of the Kyuubi. We would like to understand what happened." Minato looked up with his calm, cool blue eyes, leaning back slightly as if he had all the time in the world. "There was a threat approaching Konoha, as you know," he said gently. Naruko tilted her head, noticing how her father seemed to carry both calmness and authority in every movement. She admired him for it, even if she didn't fully understand all the politics at play. Danzo, never one to hold back, spoke next. "And how did you know of this threat? How did you know the Kyuubi would come?" "Our scouts spotted it heading toward the village," Minato replied. "On that day, however, it appeared directly in Konoha." Gasps filled the room. Even Danzo looked uneasy at the idea of a Baiju arriving in the village. Koharu was the first to ask, her voice sharp but polite. "What happened?" Questions erupted from all around. The room buzzed with voices, each one asking for answers. Naruko stayed calm, watching her father patiently. Then, with a sharp clap of his hands, Minato brought silence to the room, and all eyes turned toward him. He raised his hand again, gesturing toward Naruko. "This," he said with a small smile, "is Namikaze Naruko, my younger sister." For a moment, the room froze. Whispers floated like gentle wind across the hall. Some faces showed surprise, some confusion, and a few were already curious about this unexpected guest. Hyuga Hyashi's deep voice finally cut through the murmurs. "Let us remember ourselves and speak with respect," he said firmly, and everyone nodded, settling down. Minato smiled at Hyashi, then addressed the room again. "Jiraiya-sensei found her during his travels. She had been in danger, and we were lucky to bring her here safely. She is family, and we are grateful for her presence." Naruko stood quietly, meeting each council member's gaze with calm confidence. Some still looked skeptical, but she simply smiled gently. She didn't need to explain everything. Her presence, her curiosity, and her kind heart would speak for themselves. From her place near her father, Naruko felt a warm sense of belonging. She wasn't just an observer anymore. She was part of the village's story, ready to learn, to grow, and to help in her own way. And for the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen. "Hokage-sama, may I ask a question?" Hyashi spoke politely, and Minato nodded in consent. "Is there a particular reason why you didn't tell us that you had a sister?" Minato's eyes softened as he leaned back in his chair. "You weren't informed because I, myself, didn't know I had a sister. Nor did she," he gestured toward Naruto, "for that matter." Nara Shikaku studied Naruto carefully. "The resemblance between the two of you is remarkable, Hokage-sama. But if you didn't know she existed, how did?" Minato sighed and looked at Naruto. She frowned faintly before speaking, her voice steady. "My mother passed away a long time ago. You must know she was an Iwa nin?" Heads nodded in understanding. Naruto continued, folding her arms casually. "She was expecting me when she visited Konoha. She wanted to return to Iwagakure, but they refused. Even though they knew she was with a child, the Namikaze clan didn't hold special importance for them. So we settled in a small town in Chano Kuni, where I lived until I was 6. Then, a seal master who had no apprentice chose me, and I left my mother's home to train with him. She never told me who my father was, and I had never met Yondaime-sama personally, so I couldn't make any connection between our looks." She tilted her head slightly, amused by the curious glances around the room. "The rogue ninja that attacked me. They didn't seem to be looking for me. I think they wanted to steal my supplies. They stumbled upon me just as Jiraiya-sama did." Minato gave her an amused look. She has my flair for drama, he thought. While most of the council seemed to accept her explanation, Uchiha, Hyuga, and Nara exchanged skeptical glances. Minato knew they understood how powerful a seal master could be. "Jiraiya-sama helped me," Naruto continued. "He knew who I was when I gave him my mother's family name. He brought me here so I could recover and meet my brother. I asked Yondaime-sama if I could use our father's family name, and he agreed, so now I am Namikaze Naruto." Danzo's sharp voice interrupted. "All well and good, but what about the Kyuubi?" All eyes turned toward Minato, who frowned slightly. "This was the tricky part. I knew the Kyuubi was coming days before it arrived. I wanted to find a safe way to protect the village before it reached our borders. While I was figuring that out, Naruto visited and saw the seals I was studying. She's an accomplished seal master, and there were techniques she knew that I did not." The council listened closely as Naruto spoke, her tone calm. "We worked together to prepare for the Kyuubi's arrival. We wanted to find the safest sealing method possible. Neither of us wanted the burden of a Jinchuriki." Even Danzo was taken aback. "You risked yourself. Deliberately?" Naruto nodded firmly. "Yes. But the Kyuubi came too quickly for any long-term plan. Whatever precautions we hoped to take couldn't be fully set up in time. Reports show there were no civilian casualties and very few ninja casualties," Uchiha Fugaku said. "You acted wisely, Hokage-sama." Minato nodded with a small smile. Naruto performed a high-risk seal to protect the village. Danzo leaned forward, intrigued. "And which seal was that?" Naruto's expression stayed neutral, though her answer carried a quiet pride. "The Soul Seal. The details are complicated, but it worked perfectly. The village is safe." Minato's gaze softened at her bravery. She risked herself for Konoha. Her chakra was drained, and she fell into a deep sleep for a week afterward. "That's why I delayed explaining everything. Without her help, it couldn't have been done safely." The council absorbed this news quietly, some in awe, others in thoughtful consideration. When the silence stretched long enough, Minato turned to Hyashi. "Hyuga-san, could you explain the purpose of the council?" Hyashi replied carefully, "It advises the Hokage on important matters. During times of peace, the council ensures that the Hokage's actions don't harm the village or its people." Minato smiled warmly. "Thank you, Hyuga-san. Another question, if you please?" He gestured toward the personal council, Koharu, Homura, and Danzo, who straightened in anticipation. "What is the purpose of this council?" The room hummed with curiosity, but Naruto, sitting quietly beside her brother, gave a calm smile. For now, she was simply happy to be there, part of the village she had helped protect, and part of a family she was only just beginning to know. Hyashi glanced at them, his eyes narrowing slightly, wondering if they had done something to confuse the Hokage. Their role is to act as the representatives of the full council, since the council cannot be called to meet for every little matter. They are to advise the Hokage and ensure her decisions benefit the village. All three of them together can also guide or correct the Hokage if they feel she isn't acting in the village's best interest. They also serve as leaders of the General Council. Naruto nodded thoughtfully before turning to Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha-san, may I ask you a question? Fugaku looked a little puzzled but inclined his head. Do you feel that the villagers are well represented in the council? The Uchiha looked around at the people present and raised an eyebrow. I cannot honestly say that, Hokage-sama. There are no villagers here. Naruto smiled gently. And, according to the information Hyuga-san shared, can you tell me what checks the power of the Hokage's personal advisors? Fugaku paused, thinking carefully. The Hokage can guide or correct them individually, but when they work together, only the full council can balance their influence. Though, considering their sway over the council. Naruto's eyes twinkled with quiet mischief. Exactly. What are you planning, Naruto? Sandaime's gaze narrowed, a flicker of concern in his eyes. He could see that Naruto was shaking things up, but in her own clever, careful way. Naruto met her predecessor's eyes steadily. Just making some improvements, Sandaime-sama, she said calmly, her tone both respectful and firm. Yondaime then gestured to his secretary to distribute the files she had prepared. With Daimyo-sama's permission, I have decided to restructure the personal advisory body. Danzo, Koharu, and Homura will no longer serve as my personal advisors, she announced clearly. The three stiffened in surprise. You have no right to do this, Danzo hissed. You need our approval. Naruto tilted her head slightly. Let me clarify, she said softly but firmly. I do not need your approval, I need the full council's approval. What I am proposing is a fair solution that ensures no one person holds too much power and keeps corruption in check. Her calm confidence silenced the room. I see. Everyone's eyes turned to Nara Shikaku, who was reading the file with interest. This is quite clever, Hokage-sama, he admitted. As the council members read through the proposal, Danzo, Koharu, and Homura paled. The plan was fair, thoughtful, and efficient. It gave everyone a chance to contribute and provided checks on the Hokage's power in a way that couldn't be ignored. I agree with Nara-san, Hyashi said thoughtfully. I see no problems here. Naruto waited patiently as the council considered her plan, letting them examine it for nearly 40 minutes. When she saw that everyone had finished, she smiled warmly. Shall we vote, then? Hands went up in agreement, including Sandaime's, who looked at her with pride. Only a few hands remained in opposition, far fewer than she had anticipated. Then this motion passes, Naruto announced, her voice gentle but decisive. You have a week to select a representative from your group who you feel is most appropriate. The generals of the Anbu and Oinin forces will be informed, and I will select a civilian representative within a week as well. She turned to Fugaku with a kind smile. I have chosen Uchiha Fugaku-san as one of the representatives of the council in the new advisory body, if you do not mind. Fugaku quickly composed himself and bowed. It would be an honor, Hokage-sama. Naruto nodded, pleased. Good. 3 members have been selected, and 2 more remain. We will reconvene in a week to finalize everything. If you have questions, please ask. As she addressed the council, Naruaki slipped into the shadows, a quiet grin on her face. The older Hokage's clever pace and gentle authority had prevented Danzo from interfering. Normally, such decisions might take weeks, giving the opportunists a chance to rally opposition. But today, Naruto had moved quickly and wisely. Well done, Naruto-sama, Naruaki thought. Her eyes flicked to the fuming Danzo. For now. 1 point for cleverness, 0 for interference. That's a wrap for this segment. Keep your eyes peeled for what's coming next. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.